Hey everyone, this is Mark Treichel with another episode of With Flying Colors. I guess this is an emergency podcast, uh, using that term loosely. I follow some sports podcasts, and with it being free agent time, they're doing a lot of emergency podcasts when the Minnesota Vikings signed certain free agents, which has been cool. So I'm in that emergency podcast mode. So I'm sitting here minding my own business, responding to some clients on some particular things, and I get an email from the Federal Register, which I subscribe to. I subscribe to notifications that are put in the public register for NCUA and other federal agencies. And I saw that this related to NCUA, so I downloaded the PDF, and it indicated that there was a meeting that occurred. And I thought, is this for the upcoming March board meeting? And no, it was a meeting that they held today at 10 a.m. on NCUA personnel actions. And the notice to the Federal Register, which says it'll be published in the Federal Register tomorrow, but this is what they filed, stated that at 10 a.m. today, March 12th, the NCUA board met, and they met in a closed status because there were things that they couldn't say publicly. And it says the NCUA board unanimously determined that agency business required holding a closed meeting with less than 7 days notice to the public, and that no earlier notice of the meeting was possible. Generally speaking, they always have to say that because that's how they comply with the law. They have to say, we couldn't have told you earlier, and this was an emergency. Matters to be considered. Personnel closed pursuant to exemption 2. It explains who the contact person is, et cetera, et cetera. Over its history, NCUA has gone from having open board meetings followed by closed board meetings, and different boards at NCUA view the legal rights for what you can do at a closed meeting, what you can do by notation vote, etc., differently. Some boards had a very robust closed board meeting. For example, this personnel closed pursuant to exemption 2 item that is here. Yolanda Wheat, back when she was on the NCUA board, had this on every board meeting just in case she wanted to propose that somebody be moved. She was pretty aggressive in that regard. So every board meeting that came out when Yolanda Wheat was on the board would have the open agenda and then would have the closed agenda. Since Todd Harper has been back, there have been very few closed board meetings, which means those things are being done by notation vote. And so you have the things that are done in the sunshine in the open meeting. You have things that are done in the closed meeting with less sunshine because they have legal reasons to not be disclosed. So you could be talking about a credit union that's being conserved, and you could be talking about the Camel ratings, or you could be talking about promoting someone, or you could be talking about firing someone. That's where these personnel items come in. Or with the recent deadlines that I saw that OPM has created for agencies to put their restructure plans together, my guess, and this is a guess, I've not heard from anybody particularly at NCUA, and I don't want to hear from anybody at NCUA because I don't want anybody who is in the know to be accused of having told me anything. I'm doing this based solely on what I'm reading on federal agencies and solely what I know about how NCUA runs. So there was a personnel item done at a closed board meeting. They didn't tell the world about it until after it happened, and it could have been somebody was promoted, although I doubt that's what it is. I truly believe this links to a restructure plan, whether that's buyouts, whether that's RIFs, reductions in force. My guess is it would be buyouts, that they're offering certain things to try and hit a target, because as I believe I mentioned in a previous podcast, Kyle Hauptman at GAC indicated that Kyle Hauptman indicated that he could expect a staff cut of about 100. Now, did all of those come from the Trump buyout of 8 months? Probably not. My guess is that something was proposed today. And I also am guessing that since they've had 0 closed board meetings in at least, I want to say it's at least a year, but I think it's at least 2 years, that Kyle Hauptman probably took it down the path of doing this by notation vote. But if you read the trade press, there was an excellent article in CU Times where there's a release referencing a release that Todd Harper put out about him vehemently disagreeing with Kyle Hauptman changing the call reports for billion-dollar credit unions. It's very clear to me the honeymoon at the NCUA board level is over. And so it's possible that Kyle Hauptman tried to do this by notation vote. And the way notation votes work is you can do it by notation vote, and you could end up with a 2-1 vote and everybody agrees to do notation vote. You could have a unanimous vote and everybody agrees to do notation vote. But if one board member decides they want to pull it to the table, they can say, I don't agree to put this by notation vote. And so it's possible that the two Ds said, we want to do this at the table. And this is basked in the statement that this was done unanimously. And so Hauptman said, okay, I agree, we'll do this. We'll take this to the board and we'll vote to have this meeting. That may have happened. Or they could have just decided to do it at a closed meeting because it needed discussion, which would make sense. If you're talking buyouts and the ramifications of those, you think there should be a robust dialogue on the closed record about what the board is thinking. So my guess is NCUA's had its most challenging or exciting board meeting for staff and for the board. Will they be making announcements relative to this? Will they be sending this over to OPM? Will they be sending offers out to staff, et cetera, et cetera? All of these are unknown, but some of those, my guess, is about to happen. So anyway, I will do a post on LinkedIn about this as well, but I believe something big as it relates to the restructuring of NCUA may have happened at the board table just an hour and a half ago. Or who knows, maybe it's still going on as we speak if they can't reach consensus. And remember, there's 2 Democrats and 1 Republican. Kyle Hauptman is trying to comply with the wishes of the Trump administration, but he doesn't have a second vote. But will the Democrats agree to do some things that might make sense for NCUA or not? We may never know all the details, but we'll start to see some things trickle out when we see who's leaving, how quickly they're leaving, or if this was just a promotion or a reassignment of people, which, by the way, makes absolutely no sense in all this chaos. Maybe this is much ado about nothing. But the fact that they dropped this out there, boom, we have to have this meeting, signals something strange going on at NCUA. All right, that's it. This is Mark Treichel. And if I have more on this later, I will let you know.